What's going on, guys? It is Filmington. I'm here Monday evening, fine Monday evening, where me and Ed are recording this episode. Ed Wesker Griff is my guest. He is on YouTube. Check him out. Wesker Griff, he is an OG in the community. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about between 15 to 20 baseball cards and our stance as to whether we would buy, hold, or sell such card. So we don't understand your risk tolerances, your mix of investments, and your level of wealth. So we can't tell you. This isn't an actual recommendation for you. We're not financial advisors, but hypothetically, we're talking about this from our perspective, and all of the charts, the data, the pricing that you'll see are going to be from Card Ladder and Market Movers. And we decided to break this up into pieces. So this is going to be the first half. So stay tuned for another episode that I'll post probably later this week for part 2. Let's get this started. Ed, by the way, Ed, how are you doing?
I'm doing really good. Thanks for having me on, Phil. And I'm looking forward to discussing these various cards, buy, sell, hold. So it should be a lot of fun. And also with these type of videos, I think the great thing is you can go back months later and see who was right, who was wrong. So good stuff.
For sure, Ed. So first up on the docket, we got 2019 Topps Chrome number 203, Fernando Tatis Jr. He's slowly turning into, or he's probably already turned into, the darling of Major League Baseball, probably Instagram's top followed player by a lot at this point. Probably one of the players that young fans can connect to the most, despite him being in San Diego, which a few years ago we would have called that a joke of a market, which now you can't say that anymore. Tatis, so his PSA 10 Topps Chrome has a pop of 6,305 as of this morning, and right now it is selling for about $460. What do you think, Ed? Is that a buy, sell, or hold?
That is a definite hold for me. If I have a Tatis and a PSA 10, I'm holding it right now. If I want to buy a Tatis slabbed by PSA, I'm looking at the PSA 9. I would probably pick up that one. But if I own the 10, I'm definitely holding. Don't sell, especially with the baseball season coming up. If Tatis starts off really strong, I guarantee those prices will go even higher, probably.
All right, so I got a slightly different viewpoint here. I think long term, I still like this card a lot, despite the pop, which is growing very quickly at already 6,000. Tatis is a guy I like a lot for the long term for various reasons, and it would be hard to deny his talent and his ability. The thing is, what I don't like with this card is it's up from about $300 just about a month and a half ago, already up to mid to high 400s. It crossed 500 already. You're making the point that a lot of the times the values continue to go up for baseball players during the season. And I'm not saying he's going to have a bad year, but sometimes I actually see that March is actually a pretty decent time to sell some of these guys, especially when Tatis is stealing all headlines right now after that massive contract he landed. Right now, him and Acuna are tied up. So maybe the attention, the spotlight will go to Soto next, or maybe to somebody else. So I'm waiting till he's no longer the flavor of the week. And that's maybe when I would buy. For now, I'd probably hold or even sell at these prices. Next up, 2018 Topps Update Ronald Acuna. This is the US 250. Pop is, wow, it's approaching Luka Prism levels, already at 17,405. Here we have a year's worth of data. So you can see actually all-time data going back to 2018, but you can see the spike, the Gary V induced spike in late February when the prices went up to 300 real quickly, then retraced quickly down to 150. But since then, we've kind of seen, a little bit of plateauing. His values did go down a bit during the season last year, and they're starting to come up a bit now at about $214. Buy, sell, or hold it?
I am a buy on this card. I actually just bought one off Nolan Alico 3 a week ago. I paid $225 for mine, so I paid a little more than what the chart is saying. But I really think this is a card to go after. If you look at the chart, it was at 300 this time last year. So I think with the craziness of 2021 where prices just keep going up, I think this is a card that's actually undervalued, I feel, compared to some of the other cards on the chart. that we're going to be showing, but I do really like this card. Your average collector is not going to be able to afford the bat down Acuna, which is just insanely expensive right now. So this is going to be the alternative. And Acuna is coming into camp. He looks really good, lost weight. He said he's going to be focusing on speed this year, wants to steal a lot more bases, going to be focusing on power. So this might be a potentially MVP season for Acuna. We'll see. We'll never know what we have to see what happens. But I do very much like this card, and I have personally bought this card recently. So I'm a buy on it.
Good stuff. I liked it quite a bit more when it was in the high 100s, but I have to agree with you here. I think Acuna is a buy. I think the Tatis and Soto distractions of late, them having more noisy seasons, if you will, in 2020, I think that's taken a lot of the attention off of Acuna. I think he is a good buy right now, even with the current pop. I mean, right now, Vegas odds have him tied, I believe. I checked a few weeks ago with, I believe, Mookie Betts as the MVP favorite in the National League. Now, that's a stacked National League. It's easier said than done, and Soto and Tatis are right behind him. But, I mean, he's the number one overall fantasy player. He's just a very explosive player. And, you know, I think a lot of us have some reservations with maybe his personality, his work ethic, his character, but you can't dispute the talent. And this is the year that he's going to make everybody remember how good he was 2 years ago. And by the way, last year, he actually had an OPS in the high 900s, and he had a career best walk rate. So that could be a sign of things to come. If he puts everything together, that's going to be quite scary. Next up, we got 2019 Topps. This is the no number Vlad Guerrero short print. Pop is $37.48, and it's selling for around $180 right now. What do you think, Ed?
Now, for this card, I would have to go with hold. If I owned this card in a Gem Mint 10, I would hold it to see what Vlad does this season. I know he lost a substantial amount of weight, apparently, coming into spring training, so he's looking in better shape. I've been hearing that he's been swinging a better bat. I own this card at a PSA 9. I'm going to be holding. I'm not going to be selling anytime soon. But for $177, I don't know if I can recommend it as a buy right now, because there's just Vlad hasn't shown me too much on the field for me to pull the trigger on $177. But if I owned the card, if I did have the card, I wouldn't be selling. I would be holding. So I'm going to say hold, leaning towards a sell potentially on this one.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, clearly the pedigree is there. The minor league numbers are there. The hit tool, the raw power. We saw it in the home run derby. We saw it in AAA. That's there, but we're starting to see the same story over and over in that, like, maybe we just overestimated how good he was going to be. He really hasn't shown much on the field to prove us wrong in that regard. He's a guy like you. If I have him, I'm not going to sell him now. Like you said, he lost 45 pounds. He looks great. I heard he actually played really well in the fall league or winter ball. But until I see it in major league games, I'm not going to believe in it. Also, the pop at $37.48, that's a huge difference from the bat down short print from 2018. And it's no secret that they printed a whole lot more of these. And it looks like they printed about 4 times as many. And that's a card that we're going to look at soon, actually, is the bat down. So, but if you compare Vlad's pop here with some of the other stars from Top Series 2 that weren't short printed, the pops were actually kind of similar. So another thing I noticed was that right now he's actually selling at close to an all-time high. He's just off all-time highs. And that's including the buzz prior to 2020, when a lot of people thought that he was for sure going to break out. The market's bigger now, so it's harder to compare apples to apples. All right, next player, 2019 Bowman Chrome. This is the first year PSA 10 of the number one prospect in baseball by every person's list. That's Wander Franco. Pop is already at 85.19, and it's selling at, it's gone actually quite parabolic recently. It's now selling at around $340. What do you think, Ed?
If I had this card, I would sell it. Wander Franco might be a fantastic player. I haven't seen him play yet, but for $335, that is pretty high. I would actually sell, maybe buy a PSA 9 and then pick up an Acuna update that I just talked about 2 slides ago and a PSA 10 because you know what you're getting there. But I don't. I really wish the Rays would have brought up Wander Franco in the World Series last year. Then we could have seen him on a big stage. I could have found out what he's about. I don't prospect as much as you do, Phil. I'm sure you know way more about prospecting than I do. But to me, 335 seems very steep for a guy who hasn't even taken one major league at bat yet.
Yeah, so Wander Franco, I think the pros for this card is that unlike Acuna, he doesn't have any Topps base flagship cards yet. So if you're looking to get some exposure to Wander Franco and you're looking to seek out a lower end card, this is clearly the one. There's no competition. So I think even with a pop of 8,500, that's really not that much considering all the other players you could invest in and however many variations they have because they've been in the league for longer. They have professional MLB cards and everything. Now, the one thing about this is you look back and we saw Luis Robert at one point, his Bowman Chrome non-autograph cards were going for about $300 to $400. So on the surface, it might seem like Wander Franco at 350 is reasonable. But I believe Luis Robert at the time had a pop of about a quarter what Wander Franco has now. Now, Luis Robert was never the number one prospect, but I think at the time people were treating him like that. The quote from Eloy Jimenez comparing him to Mike Trout, the big contract he got, the fact that people knew he was going to start the season with the team, which now gets us into what I don't like about this card, which is that service time, guys. If the Rays were committed to have him be on the opening day roster, he would have come up last year in the playoffs. It would have been the same effect, I believe, on service time. So the fact that they didn't move him up in the playoffs, which they needed an offensive player really badly, they probably had a historically worst offense ever for a team that advanced past the American League Conference Series. They were committed to preserve that service time, which means that we're not going to see Wander till at least a few weeks into the 2021 season. But, that's not that much time to wait, but it's still not a sure thing. They could wait till that Super 2 deadline. I mean, Tampa Bay's shown a knack to be very, very patient with all of their prospects. It's kind of their model. So I don't know. The parabolic rise as of late, we've seen it with his Bowman Chrome autograph too. I am a sell just like you on this card, and I had a stack of about 30 of them, and I'm just selling my last few now. I've got a couple left. Just averaging out of that position. All right, next up is going to be, speaking of Luis Robert, 2020 Topps Chrome pop of just $15.59, and this one's selling for about $178 right now. What do you think, Ed?
That also seems pretty high to me. Actually, I was just at a card show this weekend, and the dealer in the showcase had this exact card, not graded. It was raw for $35. Meanwhile, behind the Lubob was the Christian Yelich 2013 update for $25. So me being a value guy, I wind up buying the Christian Yelich instead and not the Lubob. But looking at this card, $177. If I had this card, I would probably lean towards a sell. That just seems a little too high for me. Lubob didn't show me much last year. Now, granted, it was a shortened season, and, we'll see what he does this year. But to me, 177 seems a lot. If I had the card, I would hold. But probably wouldn't. I'm not a buyer at 177 right now until I start seeing something more from Lubob on the field.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, he's very raw. We saw that with the strikeouts, the issues he had in the second half of the shortened season in 2020. Has a hard time hitting breaking stuff. He was terrible in September. So, and that's not something that we shouldn't have completely not expected. He struck out 3 times more than he walked in the minor leagues. He had issues with swinging too much that came directly from what his coach said. We could use an extra year of development, but Chicago kind of rushed him up, and maybe that's fine. He still was productive, still with a well above positive WAR with his other contributions and his occasional power. So Luis Robert, I feel like, as I said before, he was being treated as a number one prospect. Going back about a year ago, his Bowman Chrome autograph was probably selling for the same as Fernando Tatis. So like I said, he was being treated as somebody incredible. He was stealing all the headlines early on in spring training last year. I still feel like there is a little bit more regression to come. I don't think he's ready to produce at a level where he's going to be considered a top 25 offensive player in the league. Could be wrong. I just don't think 2021 is going to be the season for him. I think right now the reason why this has trended up over the last 3 months, I think it has to do with the pop being like artificially low because there just haven't been as many submitted yet. I'm thinking that this has more room to go down, and I would, like you, be selling at these levels. Next up, Ed brought it up, the bat down Ronald Acuna, the higher end option, the higher end counterpart to the US 250 from Topps Update. This one, I counted a couple different lines in the PSA pop report. So there's at least 750 of these. There actually could be a few more. Maybe there's close to 1,000. Somebody correct me in the comments if I got that wrong. But this has actually trended up at a rate that's higher than the US 250. If you were to go back a full year, this one, unlike the US 250, is actually at an all-time high right now, right around $2,800. What do you think, Ed?
If I had the money, I would be buying. I would be buying this card. 2,800 is a lot of money to spend on one card. Your average collector is not going to be spending that type of money on a card like this. And I mentioned it before, which is why I was saying the update is going to look more enticing, and that's a good buy as well because your average collector can afford that card. But like I said, if I had the money, I would definitely be buying this card. Like I said, for the Acuna update, this is Ronald Acuna's rookie card, even though it's a short print and it's a very scarce card. The pop, like you mentioned, Phil, is low. So that's going to add to the value for this card because it's going to be a highly desired card. And if Acuna does what he's supposed to do this season, those prices, that 2,800 will probably double if he has the season that many are expecting him to have and that Vegas is expecting him to have. So pretty easy buy, but easier said than done. Someone's got to fork over $3K to get this card.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a very key card of a very key player that's undervalued right now. So I'd have to agree with you. I do currently own a BGS 10 Pristine. I do have it listed on eBay, but I have kind of a ridiculous price tag because I think it's undervalued. I think these are good buys right now for sure. Next up, we got 2018 Topps Update US 300 Juan Soto. This is our first non-PSA card, specifically an SGC 9.5 with a pop of 203, according to SGC's pop report. Selling for about $175 now. What do you think, Ed?
A definite buy on this. 175, that is kind of a lot for a mint plus, but I feel long term that the card could gain more value. So it might actually even dip a little more below 175 in the coming months. But I think long term, it's a good card to buy. I actually had a SGC 8.5 and a 9. I sold both of them like a month ago, and I did buy a SGC 10. So I do have an SGC 10 in the collection. You know, I love Juan Soto. He's probably my favorite non-Philly in the league, and I think the sky's the limit for him. So I would definitely be a buyer of this card, even though I feel 175, the 9.5 mint plus is probably a slight overpay. But I think when SGC raised their price on grading, PSA raised their price on grading, I think all the third-party graders, it's going to be way more expensive to send your cards in for grading. So I think long-term, this card will go up. So I'm a buyer.
Yeah, so I like Juan Soto a lot. Long term, right now his prices are pretty expensive. I don't think people would argue against that. Most people wouldn't argue against that, I think. But this card in particular, an SGC 9.5, usually SGC 10s with ultra modern cards, you can find them at close to like 40 to 60% of a PSA 10. And because PSA 10s are below like 350 right now, probably closer to 300 with this card, I just feel like the SGC 9.5 is a little too expensive. It's selling for probably at the high point of what I would buy an SGC 10 for. Maybe the pop of 203 is creating some illusion of scarcity, and people are buying it thinking it's more valuable than I do. And you know what? Maybe the overall perspective of the market changes. with the recent price increases and with SGC maybe gaining some more ultra modern market share in the future. Maybe SGC 10s will sell for more and that'll drag up 9.5s. I did notice that percentage wise, the increase is pretty much in line with PSA 9s. And a 9.5 is still more expensive than a PSA 9, which I would expect. Next up is 2019 Topps Chrome Update debut of Fernando Tatis in a PSA 10. This is a card that I feel most of the hobby didn't really care about until July or August. You see this spike here that happened in the early part of the graph. And then Tatis kind of had a not as impressive a second half as he did a first half, kind of removed himself from the MVP race. And then the offseason came, and now these are right back up with all of Tatis's other cards selling at about $240. What do you think about this card, Ed?
Definite sell for me. In fact, I had this card last year during the season and sold it for $175. And I just didn't understand why this card was rising, because it's a rookie debut card, and rookie debut cards don't normally carry a premium, and they normally don't sell for these type of amounts. So this is kind of all new territory for a rookie debut card to be selling like this. I mean, think to yourself, what other rookie debut, ultra modern or modern, sells for those type of levels? So this is pretty much unprecedented territory, in my opinion, for a card to be selling like this. Now, with that said, I have, I open a lot of 2019 Topps Chrome updates, so I do have this card raw, a bunch of copies that I did send into PSA to get graded, so I'm waiting on those. That pop report's definitely going to be jacked up because I'm probably not the only one that has done that. But for $236, I would not buy this card for $236. I would take that money and buy his actual rookie card, which is the 2019 Topps Chrome, just the regular, the horizontal. So I don't understand why the rookie debut is $236. It's kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah, you brought up Pop Report, and I think that's a recurring theme in this, where products that came out in 2020 or the end of 2019, or if the particular card didn't become hobby relevant till the last 6 to 8 months, which this is a perfect example of that, those pops, they can be deceiving. Sure, that's the pop today, but what you should really be more cognizant of as a collector or investor is what's the projected pop? What do I know about the print run of this? Blowout will tell you that, they printed roughly 67% more of this set versus 2018 Topps Chrome Update. It's a pretty big increase. Not a mass-produced set, but that pop of 947, that's going to catch Juan Soto from the year before, and that's probably going to do that probably within the next, I would think, 5 to 6 months. It might not actually pass Soto, but the whatever Soto's at today, 7,000, I think it'll be at 5,000 by the end of the regular season, and it all depends on how quickly PSA can get caught up. But yeah, I'm with you, Ed. It's the first vertical Topps Chrome card, but I did an analysis on true rookie cards and, the different variables with vertical versus horizontal. And if you look at certain players like Jack Flaherty and Walker Buehler they actually have their more desirable card from Flagship that's horizontal. Compared to Topps Chrome Update, which had them in vertical form. So I don't think that the vertical thing, I don't think that's a staying factor. And it's just nobody really cares about rookie debuts except for this one. So it's just interesting to me that it would be that much of an outlier. Not saying that Mookie Betts and Juan Soto, their rookie debuts are worthless, but they're just not even closely as regarded the same as the true rookie cards without the debut. And that is it for part 1 of the buy, sell, hold program that I did with Wesker Griff here. Find him on YouTube, Ed Wesker Griff. Hopefully you guys liked what you saw. Please please comment and tell us what you thought. Subscribe if you haven't already. And take care, guys. Filmington out.